This video is for my Introduction to Computer Science class. Now we have a few days left over this semester, so we're going to go ahead and learn a little bit about web development. That's what you've opted for, so we're going to look at Svelte. Svelte I've recently discovered, and I really like it. Now, if you notice, I'm working on my Windows machine at home, and it's going to work the exact same as it does on our Macs when we're at school. But if for some reason you want to go ahead and do it on a Windows machine as well, that's fine. Like I said, it works the same. Just make sure you have Visual Studio Code installed, because that's what we're going to be using. And then we also have to run over and grab Node.js. Grab it for the operating system you want. Go ahead and install it. And then we're also going to come over to Svelte Kit. Now, we're not going to install anything from here. The commands to install are right here. Just bookmark it because we do have the FAQ and the docs here as well. But once you have all that installed, let's go ahead and create a folder. Ooh, new DaVinci's done. I'll move that to a different monitor. I'm going to right-click, create a new folder, and I'm just going to call it Web Week. I'll just stick that up in the corner here, and let's open up Visual Studio Code. Now, I want to run out of this folder. I could go ahead and navigate to it. It's just so much easier to drag and drop it in, though. Boom, I'm in that folder. So I'll close this down. We might as well go full screen for now. I'm going to open up a terminal. I want a new terminal. And take note of the path that I'm in. I'm actually in that folder that I want. I want to check the version of Node that I have installed. So we can just simply type Node double tack version. I think you can just do single tack V. Either way, anything above 14 should be fine for what we're doing. All right, so let's go back to that web browser, that Svelte command we had where we had to npm svelte next or knit svelte next. Copy everything up to, but not including the my app or the space in front of it. We're going to paste this in. And then you have to tell it the name of the project. Now, we could make the folder first, cd into the folder, then run this command. I just prefer to do it this way. So we're going to take that number guessing game that we made in Python because it's really simple and I think a great introduction to how to work with JavaScript inside of Svelte. We're going to convert that over to, well, a web app. So I'll call it number generator or number guesser. We hit enter. It's going to go out. It's going to make that folder for us. And it's going to ask a few things here. Now, I don't want the demo project. I want to run right from a skeletal project. So it's completely empty. And we are going to use TypeScript. We are going to use ESLint. And we are going to use Prettier for the code. Now, since I only have you for a few days for this class, we're not going to go too deep into any of this. But we'll at least get a few apps up and running. All right, now that I'm done, we can see that it's created the folder. We've got some folders inside of there. We want to move into there. So we can say cd, new tab. That'll autocomplete for us. And we are in there. Now we want to install all those modules. And there's a bunch of other ones that I usually like to use. Usually grab Windy CSS or Tailwind, something like that. We're not going to play with that right now. We're just going to stick with the stuff that strictly comes with Svelte. So I'm going to use npm install. It's going to run through, install all the modules for us. And as we can see, we now have a Node module folder up here. So let's set up our dev environment to actually run. For that command, we're going to use npm run dev. And when you hit enter, it's going to go and set that up for you. And if we control click on the link it gives us here, it'll actually open up our web app for us. So here we go. I'm actually going to dock this to the side here. All right, so let's take a look at how this page is being made. So if we come to the sources folder, we open it up and we're going to open up roots and we're going to take a look at index.svelte. This is the page that does everything over here. Now, since I'm at home and I already have Svelte installed, I got a few things here that are installed. I'm going to reload the window real quick. Let's install one plugin for you that I want you to have, just to help with the color syntaxing. And we're going to look for Svelte. Now, I've already got it installed, so we'll just come over to the very first one. You can just hit install. Looks like I've got a few others that I'm playing around with. You definitely want the first one. And once you get that installed, we'll come back in. Open up the index, and let's play with this a bit. I'm just going to go and delete everything, and we're going to look at our first tag here, which is an H1. Think of it as a heading. I'm going to close this side here. We'll make it a bit bigger so you can see it better. I'm going to hit Control tilde just to shrink the menu or the terminal down. We don't need to see that. So let's take a look at this header tag. It's underlined because I don't have anything typed in between, but all of our tags, get that out of the way. Notice, put it on separate lines. It might be easier to read. So we have the less than, greater than. We have H1 in between. It has a closing tag, which is the exact same thing, except we have this /. What this allows us to do is to create a heading similar to this one here. And let's just do the hello world. Now, as soon as you save this, it updates over here. So great. Anything we do over here will be reflected there. There's two other tags we're going to look at here. One is the P, which is just paragraph tag. Whatever you type in here, we'll save it. Notice it's a little bit smaller over here. For now, just think of it as paragraph and heading. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just so we can see it better on the recording. And I do want to point out that there are multiple headings that you can use. I think I've gone to 6. I don't know how high of a number you can go to. Whoops, let's do 3 and 4. And it looks like I don't have the autocomplete on this machine. Usually when you change one tag, it'll change it automatically at the end for me. But take note, I've got hello world 4 times, H1, H2, H3, H4, and they progressively get smaller. When we get into styling, we can change how this reacts. But think of it as order of importance. You should really only ever have one H1 on the page. And think of it in the sense of these are headings for different sections of maybe your page and subheadings and sub-subheadings. For now, I'm just sticking with the 1. Okay, so our number guessing game. Let's change the title. And we save it off. And, well, you should have gotten used to my bad spelling throughout the semester. So let's start off with a greeting. Let's say we got the title up, number guesser. Let's do a paragraph tag, and we'll ask them to think of a number between 1 and 100. So we'll save that off, and I've typed in, think of a number between 1 and 100, and I will guess it in 7 or fewer guesses. Now remember, we have these set as variables. We have the low and the high. And I want the exact same thing to work here inside of our web app. So we're going to take a look at the script tag. Now this is where we're going to write all of our JavaScript. And we simply make the script tag, hit enter. Notice we have the closing one here. And everything we write in between here will be JavaScript. Now everything we have out here, I'm just going to quickly save it. This gets put in the body of the page. So this is what the user sees when, well, if he looks at the source of your website. And it looks like it didn't update. There we go. Got to do a quick refresh just to get it to update. So let's set the variables up for these and take a look at how to get these variable values printed out into our web app. So in Python, we had the var keyword. So we'd have var low equals 1, var high equals 100. With JavaScript, we have the let. For all intents and purposes, it does the same thing. It allows us to create a variable and have it equal something to begin with. So now I have 2 variables set up, one called high, one called low. I'm going to replace this whole little block here. And the way we get our variables from our script up here into the HTML is we use the curly boys. So put that in and just type in the name of the variable. So I'm going to say low. Then outside of the curlies, I'm going to hit the tack key, put some more curly boys in there, and put the high in there. I'm going to save it. And it's the exact same. But take note that if I change this, let's say we went from 1 to 10, I save it again, it automatically updates. So anytime I use high or low variables inside of my page, it'll automatically update. Remember the power of using variables instead of actually just hard coding all of the numbers. So I'm going to switch that back to 100. And now what I want to do is I want to set up a button so that when they're ready to actually start playing the game, they click the button and, well, we'll make our first guess. So I'm going to use the button tag. And of course, as soon as you close it off, it automatically puts the closing tag for you. Your cursor should be in the middle. And I'm going to say, click when ready. I'll save that off. And well, we have a button here, right? Now it doesn't do anything when we click it. We've got to actually set that up ourselves. So what do we want to happen when we click that button? Well, maybe we'll have the opening text here disappear and the button itself. And maybe he'll make his first guess, and then we can give our user 3 options. Either the guess was too high, too low, or he actually guessed the number we're guessing. Let's set that up. I'm going to come up, make another variable, and I'm going to call this one is ready. So when the player is ready, when he clicks this button, we're going to switch it to true, and that's how we're going to show stuff. So to start off with, we're going to have it being false, and this is what's displayed when it's false. Now what I want to display when it's ready is the stuff that we put in here. I'll just save this off so it's down here. I don't want this displayed when it's false. I want this displayed, but when it's true, this is what I want displayed. So we're going to take a look at how to set up an if block. So I'm going to come under the H1. I'm going to put some more curly boys in there. And this time we're going to use the hash symbol and just type in if. And then we want to check to see if isReady is equal to false. Now in JavaScript, the triple equals checks for not only value, but type as well. We're not going to get really deep into JavaScript because I only have it for a couple of classes. For all of our comparisons that we're going to make, probably in all these little programs we're doing, we're going to be using the triple equals. So just think of it as not only is it testing for value, but it's also testing for type. Now we have the closing of the if. I need one more part as well. So we'll put some more curly boys in there and we're going to use colon else. So the full if else block is set up here. We open the if, and of course, anything that we want goes in here. Then we have the else, which will go in here. And then we have the closing of the if. So we'll take this, move it into here, and take note that we've learned Python and we don't have any tabbing. You don't really need it. I tend to put it in anyway. It just makes things easier as they start getting more complex to be able to read it. Okay, so as soon as we put this in here, we notice it disappeared from here. So that part works. Now let's set up our clicking. So when we click the button, it does something. And the way we do that is we come over to our button and we use an on event. So on colon, and there's a whole bunch we can look for here, but the one we're interested in is click. So I'm going to hit on click. It automatically puts the equals. And we have these things called inline functions. Since we're just finished with Python, I'm going to try to keep things looking as similar, at least in structure wise, that you're used to. So what I'm going to do is call a function from in here. So we need the curly boys. And then we have to put the name of the function in here. And I'm just going to call this function onReady. After you type it in, it's going to be red because we don't have that function. We have to make it. And it goes up here inside of our script tags. Now we don't have the def keyword inside of JavaScript as we do in Python. We have the function keyword. But aside from the curly boys, everything here should look fine, right? Well, we don't have a semicolon as well. So everything that's in between these curly braces is part of the function. And the only thing I really want to do here is just toggle the isReady. So I'm just going to say isReady is now equal to true. Also note that true and false are not capitalized inside of JavaScript. So I'm going to save this off. And I do have some other plugins that automatically complete, like they're prettier. And we'll take this time. I know some people in class are going to be annoyed about some of the stuff that happens that I'm doing that you don't. So let's take a look at the ones that I have installed. So I have 27 plugins installed. Not all of them are here for Svelte. Bracket pair color, as we start getting more and more nested curly boys, to match them up, it'll change them color. So when you hover over like a blue one, it'll link to a blue one. Nothing we do in these next couple lessons is going to be that complex. You don't need it if you don't want it. C# for something different. Godot something different. ESLint might be one you want. I used that one when I was learning JavaScript. I still use it a bit. We don't need any of the Jupyter stuff. The material icons are just for better looking icons. That's it. The prettier code formatting is what I use to automatically put semicolons and the tabbing that I have in here. You don't need it, but it makes things look nicer. And then we've already grabbed Svelte. There's 3 that I had. I had Svelte for VS Code, Svelte IntelliSense. And I think that's all we really need to get you up and running with everything that I have. Sorry, bit of an aside. All right, so let's make sure we saved it off. And then now when I come over and click the button, it disappears and we get what's down here. Great. So what should be down here? Well, we should make our first guess and print out what that guess is. And like I said, give them 3 buttons to say whether their number is higher, lower, or smaller. So let's do that. I'll start off by saying, I guess, and I'm just going to say X for now. And then I'm going to ask them, is your number lower, higher, or lower or higher? We'll just say that. And after I've typed that in, I need 3 buttons. The first one will say lower. The next will say higher. And then the next one, got it. So I'm going to save it. We'll start it back up. And there we go. We got our 3 buttons. So the first thing I want to work on is this guess. We need him to guess a number. Now we're going to use binary division again. Does everyone remember how that one worked? First, we need a variable for it. So I'm just going to call it the guess. So I'm going to start that off at, well, really doesn't matter, at 0. Then I'm going to make a function for it, which I will call getGuess. And do you remember how it worked? We take the low, add it to the high, and then divide it by 2. Now we don't have integer division inside of JavaScript, at least not that I've seen yet, but we can go ahead and use the math library. So math, capital M, and we're going to use floor. And what this is going to do is just truncate the answer. So instead of getting 12.5, we just get 12. So I'll put that whole thing in. Of course, when I hit save, everything gets prettied for me. And now I need to call this at some point. So I'm actually going to call it in here. So as soon as we hit that click when ready, he's going to make his first guess. So either before or after is ready, it really doesn't matter. And we call the function, well, just like we do in Python, the name of the function and the parentheses. Again, I don't think there's going to be any parameters in this program. And there's one more thing we have to do is we'll come down to where it guesses and replace that X with the guess variable. So we'll save that off. Now we'll come in, hit click ready, and it works. He guessed 50, which is, in the middle of both of these, 1 to 100. Now let's start working on the higher, lower, and got it. And I'm going to start with the lower. So I'm going to create a function for that. Sorry, I accidentally hit the mic. So I'm going to create a function called onLower, and think back to our Python. If you need to open it up, have it in a separate window beside us or something. How did we handle when they said, hey, my number is lower? What did we have to do? So if they told us it was lower, that means the computer's guess was too high. So we have to take the high, make it equal to whatever the guess was, minus 1. Then after we're done that, we want to go ahead and make a new guess. I'll go ahead, we'll save that off. Now when we come in and we start it up, every time we hit lower, it should divide by 2. And it doesn't because, well, we actually have to hook that up here. So we're going to come into the lower button, and we're only working with onClick, so this part should be easy to remember. Of course, spell it right. Put in our curly boys, and I've called all my functions on something. So there we go. If you need to look, come up to the top here, on lower. We'll start it back up. Now when I hit lower, it just keeps dividing, rounding down. It's not actually, remember, it's not rounding, it's truncating. Great, let's do the higher while we're here. Now with the higher one, if they're saying that our guess is too high, that means we got to take the lower, or the low value that we have, make it equal to guess, and this time add 1. And then of course, make sure that we make a new guess. We'll set this one up down here. And then once we have that done, we'll save it. And we should be able to play now, except for the part where we have it set up to, we got it. So let's pick a number. Let's pick 62. That should take 7 guesses. So we'll start it off. So I guess 50 is your number lower or higher. It's higher. It's lower. Did I say 62? I should have said 63. There we go. And then let's hook up got it. So we'll make a new function for got it. Now for got it, we kind of think of, well, what do we want to happen when they've got it? When they click that, I guess maybe stop the guessing, hide these buttons, and maybe print out, I guessed number such and such in so many guesses. So we'll keep track of the guesses. So let's start off by implementing a counter for the guesses. And I'm going to put that up here under guess, which I'm just going to call guess count. We'll start it off at 0. And the way this is going to work is every time we call get guess, we'll increase that counter. Now in Python, we could use this, and it still works here. But now that we're in JavaScript, we can take a look at ++, an incrementer. It also works if we just want to decrease by 1. We could use negative. But if all we're doing is increasing a variable value by 1, we can use ++ inside of JavaScript. Fewer keystrokes. Now I'm going to come down and I'm going to implement some sort of display here. Actually, we can just put it right at the end. Or if we actually want to show it counting up in real time, I'm actually going to put it right here. Yeah, here. And I'm going to make this an H2, maybe an H3. Let's do an H3. And I'm just going to say guess, count, colon, then put in the curly boys, and throw in our guess count variable. So I'll save that off. We're going to come in. Now when we get ready to play, we got the guess count. It starts off with the first guess at 50. And let's do 44. So we'll hit lower, higher, and we can see it's going up automatically. When I say 44, there we go. So got it. When I click got it, I'm going to have everything disappear. So everything from here to here is going to disappear. And we're just going to have that one P tag that says, I guess number such and such in so many guesses. Well, I guess we could put another button at the bottom too that says new game, which would just reset all the variables and start over again. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to come outside of this if block and set that up. So I have the P tag, and it will say I guessed. We'll just say X in Y guesses. Then we have that new button, and it's just going to say play again. We'll save it off. Now it's always down here, and we're going to fix that in a second, but let's fill out the X and the Y. So it's saying I guessed, and we got to know what the proper number was that it guessed, and we can get that because it's the last guess that the computer made. Of course, well, here, let's take a look at this. We can do guess. If we highlight it and then put a curly boy on it, it'll put the opening and closing one for you. If I save it, we see it shows up here because he hasn't made a guess yet. And for Y, we can just say guess count. I'll save that off. It should be 0 as well because he hasn't made any. So when it starts off, we can see the actual numbers changing as we go. Now, again, let's hook up got it. So I need another toggle of some sort. And let's call it is game over. And again, I'll start that off as false because the game is not over when it starts. And I'm going to work this toggle the exact same as I did with the other one. Just we're going to put bigger things in it. So I'll start it up here with the curly boy, if, and I forgot the pound sign. And the triple equal sign, we'll look at false. Again, I like to close it right away. And we do need the else. Let's just move the blocks of code in. So this whole if block that we have here, I'm going to put that in that first one up there. And then for the else, I'll put it in here. I'll save it. And it automatically tabs for me. So we still need the on event here. And what did I call this one again? On got it. And we still have to fill it out, but that's fine. Let's get the function in there. And we'll come up. And just like with the other toggle, all we're going to do is take that one variable and flip it. All right, so we set it to true. Let's test it out, make sure everything's working good. So we'll go ahead, we'll start it up. Let's pick, I don't know, 51. So it's higher than 50, lower than 75, lower than 62. We'll keep going down. He got it there. We'll hit got it. That's, I guess, 51 and six guesses. Play again. Now when we hit this one here, we want to reset everything to the default values. So the game starts over again. So one more function, and I'm just going to stick it at the bottom here. And I'm just going to call this one reset game. And I can come up here and I'm going to grab all of the default values, paste them in. Because I have that prettier, as soon as I save it, it automatically sets everything up for me. Now I just have to make sure I call this function every time they're done and they want to play again. So we set up the on click. Put in those curly boys, reset game, and I think that's it. I think we're done. We could put a little bit more space in here to make things a little bit prettier and readable, but let's see if the logic works. So this time let's do, I don't know, 87. So we'll go higher, higher, lower, higher, higher, higher. Got it? Guessed 87 and 7 guesses. Play again? Sure. And did I not set that up? I did call reset game. And this is what happened when you copy and paste. I've got the let keyword in here, so we're actually making local copies or local variables with the same name. Make sure we don't put those lets in there. Of course, it wouldn't be a live coding session if we didn't make a few mistakes. Let's save that off. I'm going to hit refresh just to make sure, but we'll start it off. And sure, it was 81. So now when we hit play again, the game starts over. We start off. It starts off at 50 on the first guess. Again, pick the number you want and go ahead. Now we have no logic in here to pick this, well, to detect if the user's cheating. You can take what we've done in Python and see if you can implement that in here when they're guessing. But that's it. You've made your first little web app. Code-wise, it's about the same as it is in Python. The difference is now we can actually share this out on the internet. And well, I guess if you really want to play a number guessing game with your friends, here you go. Anyway, I'll throw this up on the GitHub. I'll drop a link for have it in class just to make sure that you have a working copy of it. And I'll see you in the next class. Bye-bye.